Okay, now I want you to open up to page 15 in your chapter 5 packet, and we're going to review standard form. Now, if you remember, we covered standard form extensively in chapter 4. Standard form is ax plus by equals c, but there were certain restrictions on a, b, and c. If you remember, a, b, and c had to be integers. So what does that mean? That means a, b, and c can't be fractions. A, b, and c can't be decimals. Okay? So we have to remember how to clear our equations of fractions, and we will review that. The other thing is a had to be greater than or equal to 0, which means a has to be positive. Okay? Also, we learned that if you had an equation in standard form like this, you could find the x and y intercepts. How did we find the x and y intercepts? We let x equal 0, covered that up, so y equaled 2, and then we let y equal 0, so that went away, covered it up, and that meant x equals 3. So you do have to remember how to get the x and y intercepts from standard form. And we did that by letting x equal 0 to find the y-intercept and letting y equal 0 to find the x-intercept. Okay, so that's just a quick review of standard form. Now, if you look in the do now, it says to you, this is not in standard form. And this is not in standard form. And they want to know why, and they want you to change it into standard form. Okay? So I want everyone to stop the video and try to do this on your own. When you're done, start the video up. Okay. So for the first one, why is this not standard form? It's not standard form because a can't be negative. And in this case, if it's ax plus by equals c, a is negative. So what do? I multiply or divide, however you like to look at it, the whole equation by -1. That means the sign of everything must change. So the answer here is 4x plus 2y equals -3. Okay, now the next one here, why is this not standard form? Well, this is not standard form because here's a fraction. And we learned in standard form, there are no fractions. So how do we get rid of the fraction in this case? Well, to get rid of the fraction, I have to multiply by the common denominator. There's only one denominator of 5, so I multiply everything by 5. So this becomes 4x plus 10y equals 15, and now this is standard form. Okay? Now, the next problem says, okay, now I'm going to give you some equations that are not in standard form, and actually these happen to be, by coincidence, these happen to be in slope-intercept form. So how do I change an equation that's in slope-intercept form into standard form? Now, we have done this in the other chapters, but we're going to review. So if you think you know how to do it, I want you to stop the video, do it on your own, and then start it and check. If you're not sure what to do, watch me do the first one, then stop the video and do the second one on your own. Okay, well here, first of all, x and y are not on the same side. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 1/2 x to both sides. Okay, so now I have 1/2 x plus y equals 3. Okay, it's looking better, looking more like standard form, but it's not standard form yet because there's a fraction. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2. I get x plus 2y equals 6. Remember, you have to multiply everything by 2, even those things that aren't fractions. Okay, so now that is standard form. So why doesn't everybody try to do this one on your own if you haven't already? So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 3/5 x from both sides. I'm going to multiply everything by 5 because 5 is the common denominator. And then I'm going to multiply everything by -1 because a can't be negative. And I end up with 3x minus 5y equals 20. Okay, so this should be review for everybody, but you will get plenty of practice doing it. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to try to change something that's in point slope form into standard form. So I think the easiest thing to do here, again, standard form doesn't have parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to do is distribute. Half of 6 is 3, okay? Now, my next step is I'm going to subtract 1/2 x from both sides. Then I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And now I have to multiply everything by 2. Why? Because I can't have a fraction and have it be standard form. Now, I could multiply by 2 and then this term will still be negative. Or I could try to do things in one step and multiply everything by -2. And by doing that, this just becomes x minus 2y equals -12. And I actually saved myself a step. Now, I could have multiplied by 2 and then multiplied everything by -1, but I just thought this was quicker. Okay, now let's look at the next one. The next one is y plus 6 equals -5 times x minus 2. Okay, why don't you stop the video and try to do this on your own? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is y plus 6, I'm going to distribute, equals -5x plus 10. Now I'm going to get the x on the same side as the y by adding 5x to both sides. Now I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, and I get 5x plus y equals 4. Okay, so on this page, we learned how to put things into standard form. Whether it's just an equation that looks like it's already standard form but not following the rules, or whether it's an equation that's in slope-intercept form, or whether it's an equation that's in point-slope form. We know how to change these all into standard form. Okay, so let's turn to page 16. And on page 16, instead of giving you an equation, it gives you a slope and an intercept. Okay, so what do we do when we're given a slope and an intercept? Well, the easiest form to go into if you're given a slope and an intercept is slope-intercept form. So I say y equals 5x plus 4. Now what do I do if they want it in standard form? Well, I know how to change slope-intercept form to standard form. I subtract 5x from both sides. And then I multiply everything by -1. So I get 5x minus y equals -4. Okay, now for the next one, they tell me m equals 2/5 and b equals -3. So I say y equals 2/5 x minus 3. I subtract 2/5 x from both sides. So I get -2/5 x plus y equals -3. Now I'm going to multiply both sides by -5. Why -5? Because in addition to getting rid of this fraction, I want to turn this into positive. So that becomes 2x minus 5y equals 15. Okay? Now, the last thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to go from a graph into standard form. But before I can go from the graph into standard form, I have to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So if we look at our picture, I'll try to sketch, I notice that the y-intercept is right there. So the y-intercept is 1. So I know b equals 1. Now, how do I find the slope? Well, I find the slope by counting, okay? And I count, I kind of drew this picture wrong. Let's pretend it's more like this. And this point is 4, 2, and this point is 0, 1. So I go up 1 and over 4. So if I go up 1 and over 4, my slope is 1/4. So now I just do what I did before. I say y equals 1/4 x plus 1, subtract 1/4 x from both sides, and I get negative 1/4 x plus y equals 1, multiply by negative 4, and I get 1x minus 4y equals negative 4. Okay? Now, for the next one, again, you look at that picture and you count the rise over the run. And if you're looking at that picture, you get a slope of negative 1/4 and a y-intercept of 3. So I get y equals negative 1/4 x plus 3, 1/4 x plus y equals 3, because I added 1/4 x to both sides. Now I multiply by 4, x plus 4y equals 12, and that's the equation in standard form. Okay, so now you're going to stop this video and you're going to do some practice problems.